Chapter 7.2 Sunstra. Retta returned to the cockpit as Tobias made the initial descent into Sunstra's atmosphere. He flew around Sunstra's orbiting ring, and from a distance, Red saw racing skiffs beam along its track, all the way to a central funnel at the end that shot the ships back down toward Sunstra. They, along with Tobias' ship, cut into the atmosphere, passed through a brief layer of clouds, and emerged on the other side to a bright, bizarrely orange sky. Beneath that sky was a massive, clear, turquoise ocean spanning from horizon to horizon, only broken apart by the white, sandy shores of a single island. It looked like the Caribbean of Earth, at least how stories described Earth from many, many years ago. Unlike Earth, the massive racing ring of this moon spanned from edge to edge of the orange sky. It cut across like a thick horizontal line, so wide it blotted out a third of the horizon. Massive holographic monitors were underneath the shining silver circuit, and they ran highlights of different camera angles of the ships racing above. How did someone make this? Retta wondered. Ain't made, Tobias said as he descended. Ring was already here. The magnetic made it a natural maglev track for ships, and it turned out to be a great racing track, too. Racing brought money, money brought people, and Sunstra was born. You've been here before? Retta asked. Yeah, years ago. The place is more built up now, but it's still where people go to run away. Though Sunstra got its name from its gleaming bright sky, its character came from the sea. Its architecture was made from giant seashells. A grand, spiraling conch of faded red and white rose to the heavens from its center. Large, fanning shells were the walls of the buildings here. The city itself, though built for the track, was also a part of the track. An open-topped tube cut through the center of the city, and the sea spilled into the island through this path. Racing ships shot through the tube, and the spray of water crashed against the sides of holographic barriers, where onlooking fans reveled in cheer. It was the closest you could be to the action, and where the densest crowds formed. The course itself was everywhere. It cut through other uninhabited islands and rocky shores, twisted and turned its way back to the main island, and ran into the mouth of an inactive volcano at its crest. Following the direction of the track, Retta noticed it twisted through the core of the moon and shot ships out the side, into the asteroid belt, and towards the accompanying maglev ring above. It was strange, seeing the contradiction of cutting-edge racing tech integrated into the natural, giant seashells of this moon. The infrastructure was both futuristic and natural, especially the starport. On the outside, it was a gigantic, open shell, like a gaping wide earth oyster. On the inside, an opalescent pearl docking bay awaited them. It was the strangest starport Retta had ever seen. Retta's imagination got the better of her. If the shells are that big, what used to live inside those shells? Wouldn't you want to know? Tobias said with a sinister smile. He meant to scare her, but only spurred her curiosity. She sketched in her notebook, drawing the shells, imagining giant sea creatures, and Tobias had to stop her before she went off the deep end. Relax, girl. I'm just teasing. The shells are just for show. The sea here is dead. Kurata overheard their conversation and relaxed into a seat. The sea is dead. That's sad. She heard the water lap against the ship as Tobias skimmed the sea. Kurata never heard water like that before, and politely asked Tobias, May I please open the window, Toby? Toby? Red said and spun around. Since when do you call him Toby? Yeah, open a window, Tobias said. Wait, so we're just going to ignore? Before Retta finished, the window opened and wind howled into the junk dog. Kurata stuck her hand out, then her face, and loved feeling the wind in her hair. She couldn't help but smile wide as the warm sea breeze flew by. Oh! Kurata was amazed. It smells so nice. Tobias chuckled. That's the sea. The sea? Does that mean we'll get to see sand? Yeah, we'll see. Tobias stopped himself, since seeing wasn't what Kurata would be doing, but he finished his thought. Yeah, we'll see sand. Kurata absolutely beamed at the idea. I have read so much about it, Apparently, on some beaches, there are more individual grains of sand than stars. Ooh, I wonder how it feels. Is it soft? Is it warm? Great, Tobias muttered under his breath. Now the quiet girl's all excited. Stop. You know you like it, Retta said and smiled at Tobias. It's kind of nice. He chuckled to himself before docking in the mouth of the Blue Oyster Stardock. The landing was so smooth that the others barely felt it. Well, Tobias, Retta said, you're a smooth pilot. He waited a moment and knew Lil Red's compliment felt too genuine. All right, where's the sarcasm? She smiled and added, I mean, if you're such a good pilot, why don't you enter the competition? Great point, Lil Red. You're right. Since, I owe you a ship, I've been living rent-free in your hole. He quickly turned it back on her, and Red didn't like it. All right, I get it. I've been eating your food, wasting your time. I got it. She stormed out of the cockpit, stomped past Karada, and made her way to the exit. Karada turned towards Tobias, dumbfounded, and asked, does this happen often? Retta yanked the exit door open and was surprised by a confetti shower of flower petals. That, mixed with the bright sunlight of Sunstra, blinded her, causing her to cover her eyes and cough before regaining her composure and seeing the welcoming crew. A gaggle of bots awaited outside their ship and were unlike any bots Retta had ever seen. Their upper torsos were curvaceous as an hourglass, and their lower halves were curved like mermaid tails. Metal scales glistened kaleidoscopic greens and purples. The tails wrapped around a glowing, floating orb that acted as a portable maglev so the mermaid bots hovered. They rocked their hips, side to side, in lockstep unity, hula dancing and strumming tiny guitars in their arms. Others threw flower petals towards Red, and another floated towards her, placed a lei around her neck, and politely bowed to welcome her in. Retta laughed and smiled when she saw them for what they were. Hey, thank you. Karada stepped out next, following the sound of the commotion. Red? A flurry of flower petals showered her, causing her to flinch back. What's happening? They're welcoming us, Karada. Another bot placed another lei on Retta, and one on Karada. Hey, nice. I got two. Retta laughed, admiring the leis around her neck, until she looked up. She noticed that all of them, every single one of them, was looking at her, staring at her. All the bots were focused on her. Retta kept smiling, feigning joy, but remembered Deegan's ominous warning from before. Where there are bots, there's Nexus. And where there's Nexus, there's Luca. Yana stepped out next, her hands in her pockets, and a bot approached her. With steely eyes, she shot the bot a look as sharp as a dagger. The bot hesitated, intimidated by Yana, and very slowly put the lei on the ground. Yana stared the bot down. It quickly retreated back, and other bots were too scared to get close to Yana. Despite Yana's cold entrance, Tobias's was worse. He skirted past the bots, raised his open palm up, and blocked any attempts for the bots to place a lei around his neck. Come on, we don't got time for this. We got a race to register for. Retta politely took the leis off her neck and returned them to the bots. Thank you, but I have to go. She took Karada's off too, felt the petals, and realized they were thicker than normal flowers. Something was off, and after she offered them back to the bots, Karada whispered to Red, Was it me, or did your lei have an electric buzz too? Retta shook her head, and realized what they were. Trackers. Tobias led them through the seashell-encrusted streets towards the spiraling conch skyscraper at the center. They passed the center city's half-tube, where crowds stood at its edge, watching the ships cut through the island. Skiffs flew so fast that they were just blurs of color with accompanying sea sprays against the upper glass. We gotta get moving, Tobias said. Everyone's already practicing and running the course. Tobias, where are we gonna get ships like that? Red asked as they passed over a bridge that arched over the transparent tube. We've just got yours. Did you read the flyer? He said, and stopped to point a bot. The bot's torso was a giant billboard, broadcasting Sydney's race flyer. Sydney'll lend ships from his personal collection. Just gotta register. Why is he supplying ships for someone to beat him? Retta asked. What's he stand to gain? You can ask him when you beat him, Tobias responded. They kept walking, but the one person who hesitated was Yana. Retta felt her lag behind, and when she looked back, she saw Yana's eyes squarely on Sydney, and a specific black spiral shell building that twisted like a whirlpool. Yana looked up, and as Retta followed her eyes, she saw that same black spiral building across the city, at the crest of a cliff face. Now what's that house? Retta thought, and jotted it in her journal. Hey, come on, Tobias yelled out, waving for the others to follow him. Karada and Alpha were already at his heels. Retta went to follow, and Yana lingered one last moment before catching up. At the mouth of the towering conch building was a large, curved opening. Recessed lights that flickered with a fake electronic flame beckoned them in, and as they entered, they saw lines of crowds all waiting to register for the race. All right, Tobias said, leaned back into a wall, and crossed his arms. Meet me back here after y'all register. Okay, Karada said, turned around, and got lost in the crowds before Retta or Yana could respond. Yana went on her own, found a separate line, and Retta crossed her arms while staring at Tobias. You're really not going to register? You're actually going to make us do it when you could probably win on your own? I don't know myself a ship. She squinted her eyes. You've got something else in mind, don't you? Come on, Lil Red, he said, smiling. Would I ever do that? No, of course not. She played along. Tobias looked both ways, then in a hushed whisper, said, If Sydney sees me, he's gone, so I'm trusting it to you. All right, Retta said, but when I win that ship, I'm keeping it. You mean if you win, Tobias corrected her. Don't get cocky now. Too late for that, she said, and walked away from Tobias. Retta waited in line for less time than she expected. A minute or two passed, and she was already one step closer. After 10, she was at the front of the line. Opposite her, manning the counter, was a round-faced bot with a single camera for an eye. They were dressed in a light lavender suit with black accents. They had their two metallic hands politely folded into each other, resting behind two paperweights of anglerfish that eerily reminded Retta of the beast on Zoto's planet. She hoped there weren't any here. Hello, the bot said with perfect, robotic dictation. Your name, please. My name? Your name, please. Lil Red, she said, watching a white light spin around the bot's camera eye. Is that your full name? Lillian Red, she said, knowing full well whatever she said was either going to Luca or Nexus. The bot paused, registering the info. The pause felt longer than it had for the other participants. What made it worse was the people waiting, staring, and watching. She could feel the pressure from the person behind her as he breathed down her neck. The light kept circling, and circling, and circling. Done. Do you need a ship? Can I use my own? You may. Retta already felt the bot's eyes on her as they entered. Borrowing a ship felt like another way they could spy on her. The less ties the bots had, the better, and she wanted to see what Zoto's ship could do. I'll use mine. What is the name of your ship? The Driftwood. The Driftwood. Registered. You are participant number 2929. Good luck. Thanks, she said, about to turn, but the man behind her grabbed her by the shoulder. Say, he said, I've seen you before, haven't I? She paused, analyzing the situation in a split second. Think, Red. Who is this? Do I recognize his voice? Is it better to turn or wait? Oh? She said, staying still. Where from? Deimos, in that casino, the man said with a voice as coarse as gravel. Yeah, I saw you with Osvaldo. That only made it worse. Most of the people on Deimos were Luca's cronies. A friend of Ozzy's a friend of mine. Here, take my card. I tweak ships. I can amp yours. Retta turned around, and did not expect the man to look the way he did. He was short, stubby, and toad-faced. His neck doubled over on itself. The wrinkle lines flapped with the wind, and his eyes sat deep, nestled within two dark bags. His features were buried beneath his thick cheeks and second chin. She was unsure why the stranger offered such help at no cost. But she took the card, and was surprised to see a relic paper business card out here. Sure. Thanks. What's your name?
Devon Ganowitz. My link info is on there. Now, excuse me, I gotta register myself,
he said, and stepped towards the bot before Retta had a chance to slide over. The interaction was strange, but the message was stranger. A map was drawn in ink, where a red star marked a spot off Sunstra's main streets with the message, "Meet here. No bots."